Alright, welcome back to the Cutlass Board Games channel. This time we are doing an update to my casual Pokemon TCG deck, which we've come to know as the Tower, which consists of a whole bunch of goofy single prize different typed Pokemon. And I'm really excited to show you some of the stuff that I got today to add to it. So this is the Tower in its current state. A whole bunch of different cards come together to make this pile, basically. And what we're going to be doing today is adding a bunch of stuff. We're going to be doing an unboxing and opening of a whole bunch of different things that I got to fill this out. Now, the important thing is, and we'll use an example here of Baltoy and Claydol, is an evolutionary line must be complete. There must be a greater number of basic than non-basic Pokemon, and in each line there must be more than one color. So for example, we have the fighting type Baltoy and the psychic type Baltoy, and the same must be for every evolutionary line of Pokemon. And I've ordered a bunch of cards that we're going to open in a second, which helps fix that rule. There also can't be any doubles, so there is a couple that I do have that problem where they need to be replaced and changed. For example, I have 2 Meditite, which is going to be replaced by, as you saw on top, the Psychic type Meditite, which will fix this problem. But this is what it looks like right now, and then we're going to get to this unboxing. So I went through TCG Player and went and ordered a whole bunch of stuff to replace a bunch of the cards for this deck of really varying qualities. Some things were listed as damaged and were the only ones available, so I'm curious to see just how bad some of these things are, but we'll see how we go. And then these cards will hopefully replace everything that we need in the deck to complete it. So they're in several very large packages. So let's do one at a time. And as you can see, there's probably some really goofy stuff in here upcoming. But I'm pretty excited about it. So let's seal it with tape on top. I might need to get my scissors. Hang on. I am unfortunately useless at packaging and therefore need scissors. I have to be very careful to not damage the cards or myself. Okay. So first up we have the Psychic type Meditite, because we only have fighting type ones at the moment. And its attacks are kind of relevant. I really like the stuff for this format that says flip coins. If successful, more stuff happens. So there is a couple of those in here. Okay, so we have this Meditite. We then have a Fletchinder, because we're going to have a fire and normal split of Talonflame and Fletchling. So we have the Fletchinder. We have a Wingull, because I found a Pelipper that I really wanted to use, and I like Pelipper quite a lot. Here's the Fletchling. This is another one of the coin flipping cards. Then we have Dragon type Dragonair with grass and electric type moves. Shed Skin being very strong. And then Slam, which has coin flipping. Then we've got Psychic type Nidoran. It's a really nice foiling, actually. Then we've got Nidoqueen, which if you can have a look at that barrage ability, this Pokemon can attack twice, which is kind of crazy, but getting a stage 2 Pokemon into play in this format is really hard, so it's really not that busted. But I'm really curious to see this one get played. We have the other fletchlings. There should be 3 of them in total. Then we have a fighting type Breloom. If you saw before, we had 3 grass types, the 2 Shroomish and the 1 Breloom, all grass. So this now solves the typing split. And then we have fire type Fletchinder. So there'll be a normal and a fire type Fletchinder. This also has a coin flip attack. Okay, next pack. Let me get my... This one looks like it's a bit looser, taped, but folded in a funny way. Alright, I know all you can see is my hand, but I need to see what I'm cutting. There we go. Okay, so I've also picked out a couple other Pokemon cards from my collection to supplement these new cards, including, whoops, spoilers, including a Noabat. So I have a normal type Noabat and a dragon type Noabat, which means we now get a dragon type Noavern. And I really like this one and the Dragonair because it has unique energy typing, and because the nature of the deck is you can choose to draw from a Pokemon card deck or an energy card deck, and you'll just get lots of random energy. And something having a more interesting energy requirement, I think, will make it a lot of fun. So that's Noabat. Do we have an Oddish? Just a regular old Oddish. Nothing weird about that. But then we have Blossom. So I had some old Oddishes and Glooms and stuff, but I didn't have the stage 2. So we've decided to go with this Blossom. So I think it's not too broken for the format. We then have another Fletchling, which says draw a card, which is very strong in this format. And then Rocket Charmander that I was really excited about. I really like the art. It's really goofy to me. And then we have another Wingull. It also has draw a card, and it's got some scratches on it. It's not really a big problem. And then Pupitar. So you know what that means? We're going to have a Tyranitar in the format. And this one seems crazy. Like that move in particular, Payback, I think is going to be a lot of fun. We've then got Xatu. So this Xatu I think is really interesting because your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused, and then Life Drain, which can't actually kill anything. It just puts damage counters on the opponent's active Pokemon until its HP remaining is 10. So they would have to also hit themselves with confusion, which is really funny to me. I then got a really nice Crobat. So if you saw before, I had Grass Zubat, Dark Zubat, and then now I will have Psychic Crobat. So it'll be a 3 different type tree, which I'm really excited about. And this one has a strong poison attack, as well as a potentially 120 damage attack, which is really good. And then Trico, which is another coin flip one. I really like the art on this one. And we still haven't seen any of the crazier typing stuff yet. But it looks like this next pack is going to have the first of them. Did I get that? Okay, I did. Okay, with Grass type Dratini. So this specific set with the Delta species has a lot of Pokemon of a typing that doesn't match their core identity, so to say. And I picked up a lot of these cards because it matches really well with the theme of the deck that I'm trying to build of evolutionary lines of Pokemon that have different typings within them. So we have this Dratini and we have a Dragonair as well, and some other stuff. Well, speaking of, here's the Dragonair. So that's another one that I'm excited to see come together. Then we have Metang. So Metang, that's why I want to say we get a couple of different types into it as well. And it also has a flip a coin attack. That Metang is really powerful, actually. Then we have a Fire type Pupitar and Fire type Larvitar. So these are more Delta species Pokemon. There's not very many of these around, but it helps satisfy the multiple typings that I'm trying to do, and lets me play Tyranitar. Ooh, and Electric type Dratini and Electric type Beldum. So in the Metang line, we will have Metal, Psychic, and Lightning type Pokemon, which I'm really excited about. Then we have our Psychic type Trico. You might have seen the Trico before and been like, how is this only Grass type Pokemon going to satisfy the multiple times clause? Well, here it is. Psychic type Trico, which is kind of goofy, but it makes it all worthwhile. Then we have Lightning type Pelipper. So we have the 2 water type Wingull, and now we have Lightning type Pelipper. And its ability cares specifically about Delta species type Pokemon, and now there is a lot of them, so that's cool. It's going to actually do something. I have like, I think it's like 10, 12. And then we have Grovyle. So we will have 2 Psychic type Pokemon in the Trico line. We've got 3 packages left. And there's some exciting stuff coming up in here. If I can open them. Good God. Alright. Okay, so here's our Sceptile, which is Grass. I really like this ability. When you attach a green energy to it, you remove 2 damage counters from it, which is interesting because you're not always going to have access to green energy. But if you have at least one, you can do all of its attacks and still add other energy to do stuff, but then you're rewarded for every time you add an additional green energy to it, which I really like. We then have Cacnea, which has pretty cool attacks. This is another flip a coin thing. And then this attack specifically cares if you have dark type energy attached to it, which I really liked the idea of. Slowpoke. So this is the first damaged rated card. It's not that bad. Like, it's still playable. It's not as beat up as I thought it would be, honestly. But this one I was really interested in, first of all, because we have only water type Slowpoke at the moment. But it also has a water energy requirement attack, which does more damage the more water energy that you have, which is very cool. I'll put that separately. And then we have Psychic type Zubat. So now I'll have one of each type of Zubat to match the Zubat line. And then here's our big boy Tyranitar. So in the Tyranitar line, the only dark type Pokemon is the Tyranitar. All the other Pupitars and Larvitars are fire, electric, and fighting, I think. Which is pretty cool. Then we have a Beldum. I really like that art, actually. There we go. Here's our Charizard. So this one's really interesting because it has a recall. You can choose one of this Pokemon's attacks from its previous evolutions. And because there's evolutions of different typings, it's going to be pretty interesting to see what kind of combos we can get with that. But I was excited to include a Charizard. We have another Larvitar. Normal type Dratini. But look at that art. Cute little plasticine figure in a paper cutout background. And then what's this? A totally normal Oddish. Nothing weird about it. This is water type Delta species Oddish, which I was really excited about. Then we have electric type Psyduck. So another Delta species, but it's going to let us have our Psyduck Golduck line with some interesting inclusions, which I was pretty keen on. And then we have 2 more to go. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way. have a little bit more space. Maybe just like poke over to the side. And then this next one is pretty exciting. Did that work? Guys, I messed up the scissor part somehow. Here we go. And you might have spotted this before, but electric type Charmeleon. Really excited about this one. I think this is really cool. But also its attacks are relatively energy neutral. So if you're expecting to get to a Charizard, you can just be putting 5 energy on it, so it's not a big deal. And then, of course, electric type Charmander, which is also pretty cool. Then we have a Natu. So it's got a pretty strong flip coin attack, but also Future Sight is really interesting because both players share a deck. So you can stack it so it's like I draw, you draw, which is pretty strong. Then we have a Shellos. Because I have a fighting type Shellos and I think a water type Gastrodon, so I wanted to add that. Then we have a Leafeon, because I don't have a full set of EVs for each type yet. So it was kind of important to add. Ooh, and here's our Psychic type Gloom. This one is really nice. It's a little bit scratched up, but that doesn't bother me so much. Then we have our Steel type Beldum to go with our Psychic type Beldum and Electric type Beldum. And it has to draw a card attack, which is really good for this format. Then we have Ekans, Psychic type Ekans, because I believe I have Grass and Dark somewhere. And then we have Dark type Cacturne. So we mentioned before with the Cacnea that the Cacnea gets boosted for having Dark type energy on it. You're then rewarded for having that energy on it because the Cacturne is Dark type, which I thought was really cool. Here we go. Here is the Dark type Ekans. And then I believe I have a Grass type Arbok for this set. Then we have Magnezone, because we had Magnemite Magneton in the tower already. But because the evolutionary line wasn't complete, it felt a little bit unintuitive. So instead we've now got this cool Magnezone, which has a really strong attack and double assist that can help charge up your other guys. And then finally, this Dragonite, which is really nice. See the little sparkly effect behind him there, which also has lightning and grass type requirements for its attacks, which goes nicely with the lightning type and grass type Dratini Dragonairs. So I'm curious to see that will come together. We've got one last pack. One last pack. Oh, it's being a pain. Okay, whoops. There we go. All right, last pack. So you have Fire type Mankey. Now I think this one's being cut and put in my trade folder because I couldn't get the Fire type Primeape like I wanted, unfortunately. Then we have Fighting type Execute, which is a bit goofy, but it means that I can have a 3-type Execute line with Psychic, Stage 1, and then I think I have another Grass Execute handy. Okay, so I picked up a Psychic type Starmie that has a Water type requirement attack, which I'm kind of interested about. But also this Rainbow Star attack, for each type of basic energy attached to the defending Pokemon, in this format, you will have a lot of random different energy that shows up. And I think that attack is going to be kind of crazy. Like, it should be taking one-hit KOs for the most part. Then we have Psychic type Vulpix, which is really strong, and also it lets us keep our Vulpix line because all of them are otherwise only Fire type. We have Fighting type Shelder, which is, again, another one that allows us to keep our Shelder Cloyster line. And then here's Electric Pupitar. This one's really good because you can discard energy cards. And we have Steel type Nidoran, which I thought was really cool. And that's why we ended up with the Nidoran, Nidoqueen line. Because we're able to get a couple of different types in there. Then we have Dark type Natu. So we have Psychic type Natu and Psychic type Xatu. We now have Dark type Natu to meet the multiple type requirements. Then we have Electric type Larvitar. And finally, Fire type Ekans. So I think I just grabbed a whole bunch of Ekans just in case. Okay, so now I'm going to go and edit the deck and pull everything else out so you can see what the final will look like. But I'll give you a quick flick through some of the other cards that I've put aside to put into the deck. I'm not sure which ones will make the final cut, but this is just some stuff that I pulled out because I knew I would be using it. Just to give you an idea of what kind of things are going to end up in here. But I am pretty excited about how it's going to turn out. So here I am laying out everything, a lot of the different stuff that I had just opened up, putting it out and trying to find out where it's going to fit into the tower. I had already put aside a whole bunch of stuff that I knew I was going to cut. I didn't want any Pokemon that were only basic and would not evolve. So for example, I had a Pachirisu and a Morpeko that were definitely going to get cut, and a few other things that I had earmarked for removal, and trying to find space for the new things to put in, because I bought more things than there was space in the deck. Because I wanted to have a whole bunch of options, I might change things in the future. I wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted to put in there, because until you play with it, sometimes you're like, oh, actually this is busted. Like for example, there's a Golurk with the attack Big Hand, and because in this format you draw 2 cards a turn instead of 1, and you really don't play that many cards, you end up with like 10-15 cards in hand, and that attack will kill anything in play. And we're like, okay, maybe that should get cut. Or in the very first iteration of the tower, we had a couple of Pokemon that had Guard Press, which like would stop you from taking 30 damage when attacked. And that was bonkers because you could just never hurt them. There was like really not that many Pokemon that did much more damage than that. So editing it over time means putting in and taking things out. I wanted to get a nice type split as well. And the average formula for each evolution line is 3 basics, 2 stage 1, 1 stage 2. And for some of the more important lines, I've allotted extra Pokemon to that, usually in the basics. But as you can see here, I am sleeving up some of the new stuff, putting out the different ones that are going to be put in, because a lot of stuff I had put aside more things to go in there. For example, with this Charizard line, I think I had 4 different Charmeleons to choose from. And then I'm just picking out which ones I want to go in, which ones are going to fit. And trying to get an even split of the different Pokemon types, because it is kind of hard. The other thing is that when playing this casual format, there's one deck of Pokemon and there's one deck of energy, and the energy deck is 100 cards that is, from memory, 12 different copies of each energy card. So to have a lot of one type of Pokemon means that that energy is going to be worth more than other types of energy, and it's kind of difficult to balance the gameplay that way. So I wanted to try and keep it as even as possible. And it's about this point in ordering it that I was starting to realize that I actually had way more Pokemon to put in than I had spots set out for. So I started to actually have to cut things, which is tough. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff in there that I really like, and I also wanted to play with a lot of the new stuff. And I also realized that Crobat and Nidoqueen weren't going to be able to be put in because I was missing enough to have the 3-2-1 split, because I didn't have I think I was missing a Golbat and missing a Nidorina, which is fine. That can be fixed later. But I wanted to come through and fix everything. My camera also does this weird shake whenever there's nothing really happening. I'm not sure what that's all about, but basically what you can see is me just re-sleeving everything just slightly off screen as I'm trying to put everything back together. And once I had kind of had an idea of what was going on, I was like, okay, these ones definitely in, let's put them to the side and go over the second amount. And then I split them all out into the different typings, because I wanted to know exactly how many of each type that I had. And you can see just there, I adjusted the Talonflame line so I didn't have so many Fletchinder, because I had 4, 3, and 1 instead of 3, 2, and 1. And then I'm just coming through and piling everything out. In the original, I had a lot of dark types, and then as you can see now, I have very few. But the other ones that were surprising for me to have a lot of is grass, which is off screen at the top, and then a lot of water and a lot of fire. In the very, very first version, we had basically no fire types, because I just didn't happen to have any lying around. And it looks like that has been quite corrected. And then I'm just basically pulling things out, putting things back in, trying to get a nicer balance of the different typings so that we can try and keep it as even as possible, while also trying to keep as many of the cool new things that I got in there, and sometimes cutting cards that are too strong, or sometimes cutting cards that are too weak, to try and keep things fun but also balanced. Okay, now we're all kind of done here. As you can see, I've had to pull out and edit a whole bunch of stuff to get a bit of a nicer color split amongst things. I'd initially pulled out the Pawniard line because I had too many dark types in the earlier versions, and I kind of overcompensated a bit. But now we've got a nice little spread of stuff going on here. I'm gonna get a nice closer look at some of the things. But this is kind of what it's looking like right now. Some really cool gems in here. I'm really excited to record a gameplay video of this later on to see how some of these things come together. And then you can see this is kind of the big rejected pile of stuff that I had to cut or didn't quite make it. There's a few things I was upset that didn't make it, like Nidoqueen and Crobat, because I didn't have enough for a complete line. I only had one stage 2, so maybe I'll pick up some more stuff and do some more editing of it later on, but this is what it looks like right now, and I'm pretty excited to get this one to table. So if you thought this was pretty cool, you can check out our previous video about the tower. I'll make sure that pops up on the screen. But also I have a whole bunch of other stuff on the channel, like Marvel Snap, Magic the Gathering, a lot of other Pokemon stuff that's worth checking out. And I also make board games, so if you like board games or you're interested in making a board game of your own, I have a lot of tutorialization type content around that I think is worth checking out. So click some buttons on the screen, check out some of those things, and hit that subscribe button.